All right, welcome back to another edition of the Unreasonable Odds podcast. I'm Steve Buchanan, along with my co-host Julian Edlow, as we're going to get you set for the super wild card weekend. All the betting angles, we're going to be getting to them later in the show. Dan Lifshatz from 98.5 The Sports Hub, returning guest, coming back to the show so we can talk over all of the bets you can make for a wild card weekend. We're going to be giving how we like on some sides, some totals, maybe a little 6-point teaser, if you know what I mean. We're going to be talking all of that, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But first and foremost, got some promotions going on over the DraftKings Sportsbook, one of the favorite promotions that is going on currently for the super wild card weekend. It's the Hammer the Over promotion. Got to get that damn total down for the Patriots and Bills game. How this works: every 5,000 bettors that takes this promotion, they lower the total by half a point. And if you've seen the weather forecast in Buffalo, you want this total as low as possible. I mean, this is not going to be a high scoring game. I probably just jinxed it, but there's a good chance this is not going to be a high scoring game. So the lower you can get that total, the better. Go ahead.
I mean, we've seen these promotions before, so I have a hunch how it's going to end. It's going to end with the total being 0. So if you think a point will be scored in this game, then hammer the over.
So make sure to go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook, take part in this promotion, hammer that total down, hammer the over. That is what's going on over on the DraftKings Sportsbook. So make sure to take a part in that. Julian, I know that you are a very giving person on the pod, off the pod. What do you have going on over on your Twitter page?
Well, I am. Everybody knows that I'm the Santa Claus of the sports gambling Twitter sphere. So
didn't give up
in honor of that, Steve, I'm going to go ahead and give away 50 tickets to the NFL Millionaire Maker for Wild Card Weekend over on DraftKings. So that's on my Twitter handle, at Julian Edlow. You go there, you follow me, you retweet it, and you reply with your DK username. And on Friday, you got to be watching this before the weekend. You got to watch this on Thursday or on Friday morning. On Friday, we're going to select 50 winners. You get that ticket. You enter Saturday's contest that covers the 6 wild card games. And you hopefully, because you're an Unreasonable Odds listener, win $1 million. So that would be cool. So we got that going on. We got the Hammer the Over going on. Steve, anything else we got going on before we bring in a guest?
We have a lot of betting things to talk about. It's the Unreasonable Odds podcast. Dan Lifshatz, 98.5 The Sports Up. He's coming on. We're going to talk some betting angles. Super wild card weekend. Let's get to it.
All righty, we plugged it off the top of the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, you see we're into our 3-man booth now, welcoming in Dan Lifshatz from 98.5 The Sports Hub. One of the co-hosts of the Over Under 98.5 podcast, one of the co-hosts of the Over Under 98.5 show, presented by DraftKings, 7 to 9 a.m. Right, Dan, on Saturday mornings?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right. You can listen to it if you're local in the Boston market. I'm sure you know 98.5. If you're not, the World Wide Web has things like that for you. But let's dive right into it. It is wild card weekend, super wild card weekend, right? Which I think is dumb. Just nothing super until the Super Bowl. That's why it's called the Super Bowl. But an interesting 6-game slate, including the debut of Monday Night Football in the playoffs. So we get to stretch across 3 days here. We'll see if we like it or not. But we're gonna keep it simple for you this week. Rip through all 6 of the games, chronological order, and give you some thoughts. So that means we are starting in Cincinnati, where the Raiders, who, as I say every time we talk about the Raiders, I've gotten every Raiders game wrong for 2 years. I've gotten their win total wrong for 2 years in a row. I think the Bengals win the game, so the Raiders are going to win this game. Numbers come down significantly, 6.5 down to 5 for the Raiders. Total sitting at 48.5. Money line is plus 180 on Vegas, minus 220 on Cincy. The tale of two different teams here. Cincy pretty much rested last week, at least Burrow and most of the key guys, others coming out of the game. So they have 2 weeks off. They have the week to prep, whereas Vegas gets the Sunday night game going into overtime. The emotional win, is it going to be a tie, loss, win? Who knows? Now the shorter week into Saturday to prep for a road game. I hate the Raiders, but this is the type of spot they've been thriving in all year. Dan, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. I think this is a Raiders spot, and the longer the
Well,
week
that means you
goes,
disagree with me. I think it's a Bengals spot, which means
oh, okay. Well,
will
yeah.
be
Well,
a Raiders spot.
then I definitely disagree with you, which is classic
Right.
Julian to me. Okay, yeah. No, I mean, listen, I think this is a Raiders spot. The further we go into the week, everyone is super, super high on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals team. And I just got to be honest with you, I don't really buy into them. Steve, I see you raising it. I don't buy into them, man. Like, okay, here's the breakdown for Burrow for me. And here's kind of where it comes unglued for me. The Bengals, weakness is their offensive line. I think we can all agree there. It's not the worst in the league, but it's certainly, it's no great shakes. What do the Raiders do defensively as well as anyone? They have a great defensive line. They get to the quarterback. They put pressure on you. When teams have blitzed Joe Burrow this year, he has torn them apart. In fact, Burrow's averaging like 0.38 EPA per pass. When teams are blitzing him, it's absolutely insane. It's higher than what Aaron Rodgers was averaging during his MVP season when teams are blitzing him. So Burrow has been unreal against the blitz. However, when teams decide to play it safe and not blitz Burrow, he's averaging 0.02 EPA per pass. Basically, 25th, 26th in the league, meaning if you're not blitzing Burrow, he's struggling because the coverage out there, you're probably playing nickel or dime. It's a little bit of a different look when you have two guys in Jamar Chase or Higgins and whatever. And it's a completely different game. So this game plan actually falls perfectly in line with what I expect the Raiders to do. Now, the secondary isn't great there. So that's my only concern from really hammering this number or hammering the 5.5. It's 5.5, some places, 5 others. But I look at this and say, this is a Raiders spot, especially since these two teams played earlier in the year. Like, these two teams met already. It's not like they did. And it's not like they're unfamiliar.
Revenge.
I also think that the Raiders are a different team. Since that point, since that time, we've obviously seen the last couple of weeks, beating Indy, doing whatever they needed to do against the Chargers. I just think this is Vegas or nothing. They basically had a playoff game last weekend, guys. I mean, that's really what it was. It was a playoff game last weekend, and they pulled it out. So it feels like to me, since he's been resting their guys, Vegas has kind of been in playoff mode. And I'm just going to say this as well. I'm not high on Zach Taylor. I don't trust him. So, to me, it's Vegas or nothing.
The Vegas had a playoff game last week that they were perfectly fine tying, and Staley was not fine with that result. Decided to call timeout and wanted to go all or nothing. So, great call there, Steve. Bengals Raiders. I know you've been a Bengals guy all year.
Yeah, I mean, Dan kind of brought up the point that I was going to bring up, that Burrow has been one of the best QBs in the league. When he's being blitzed, 70% completion percentage, over 1,000 passing yards, 11 of his touchdowns. Like, he has just been so good in that scenario, and that's what the Raiders are going to throw at him. And then I brought this up on the show earlier this week too. Joe Mixon had one of his best games against this run defense. This run defense is awful in what the Raiders are throwing out there. So now you're going to have Mixon coming in healthy. You have Burrow being so good under pressure, so good when he's getting blitzed. Like, these are all things that make me like the Bengals in this spot. Now, the Raiders are a much better team than we saw before. The coaching has been much better. The team just seems to be clicking a lot more. You can say what you want to say about that game against the Chargers. That was just such a back and forth affair, but I just think this is such a great spot for the Bengals. I've been riding them all season long. I'm not going to stop here at this point. The Raiders are kind of playing with house money, it feels like, at this point, because we didn't think they were going to get in there. But thank God for the Colts, baby. Cash and Julian and I missed the playoff tickets. We love them. But
I love that too. I was on that with you, buddy.
Yep. We were just casually riding by being forced into, being strong-armed into Colts plus 150 money line on Sunday, which obviously cashed.
Yep.
Or sorry, Jags plus 150 money line. What am I saying?
Yeah. Amazing turn of events there, but I love Cincy in this point. I'm not going to go away from them after being on them all season long. I just think they have the better team, and I'm just waiting for the Derek Carr implosion. We haven't seen it for weeks now. This would be a perfect opportunity to get that Derek Carr implosion once again.
I think that's fair, but couldn't you also say Aren't you waiting for the Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow implosion? Like, isn't it always the team that everyone thinks is so great, has never played a playoff game, gets into the playoffs, and then just lays a fat egg against a team that they're definitely better again? I mean, they're definitely better than Vegas, but I just think Vegas is a tougher matchup, and the way that they match up is so almost perfect to a T with the way that you want to, as long as Vegas doesn't blitz and just, they get pressure with Crosby off the edge and they're able to generate with 4. I think that Cincy's going to struggle in this one.
The only counter to the playoff thing, and it's new in the NFL, is that Joe Burrow has said hey, SEC games are way louder than NFL games. And he's played on the bigger national championship type stages, but it's a new game in the NFL. And I do agree with your point fully on Vegas getting there with the pass rush, but not blitzing is going to be one of the keys to this game. And you brought up Vegas being a different team the first time around that these two teams played. Vegas's season is amazing. They start off winning 3 games in a row, a couple of them in overtime, then go 3-7 for a window, the window that they met Cincy in, and then win 4 in a row pretty much with their backs against the wall in playoff type of games to get in. And I say that because it transitions to our next game, the Saturday night game, where the Patriots start the season a sloppy 2-4, rip off 7 in a row. It's the opposite of the Raiders. They have a good window right there in the middle, and then close going 1-3 with the only win over Jacksonville, limping into a Saturday night game in Buffalo. Now, I think all bets are off here in terms of it's the third matchup between these teams, divisional game that know each other well. It's Saturday night. It's going to be in the elements again. This game reminds me more of the first Monday night game in Buffalo than it does the Sunday afternoon game in Foxborough. Not that it's going to be quite the same with, wind bending the goalposts, but more of a slop fest. Dan and I talked on the radio on Tuesday night and discussed this game already.
Yep.
Pats with the points is tempting, and this total going up to 44 is head scratching. I know you agree with that, Steve. I have not teased a same game all season, and Dan and I have talked about this as well. This is the spot to do it. It's at 4 and 44 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. I got it at the 44.5 and the 4.5, which were the better numbers. You go up to 10.5 with the Pats, under 50.5 for the game. They're so correlated, and it gets you that extra little safety net on, just keep it within 10 for the Pats, and 50.5 is a nice number to have on a total. I don't know. Maybe I get punished for teasing the same game here, but I just feel it gets there. Dan, I know we're pretty similarly aligned on this game.
Yeah, I mean the stats kind of bear it out too. I mean, this is since 2003. Excuse me, since 2003, wild card games between divisional rivals. The road team 11-3 against the spread, 8-6 straight up. I mean, it's basically telling you that road teams are winning at a higher clip than home teams in the wild card round, and especially when they play each other a third time round. That stat is quite astonishing. And when you take a look at that and you start pairing that with Josh Allen's struggles in the cold, Josh Allen's numbers in the three games below 32 degrees since 2019, 50.6 completion rate, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 58.4 passer rating. Josh Allen has openly stated that he does not like playing in the cold, despite going to Wyoming.
Yeah.
Despite going to Wyoming, he doesn't like playing in the cold. He likes playing in the warm. Okay.
So much so that Buffalo, because he's going to be their guy for so long, they want to build him a dome because they are built to be like the Chiefs. Building a dome in Buffalo goes against everything you think of when you think Buffalo Bills football.
Exactly. He's 2-8 again. His teams are 2-8 against the spread when the temperature is 38 degrees or below. Now, those 3 games I talked about, 32 degrees and below, they won all 3 of those games. They were facing Duck Hodges, Cam Newton, and Matt Ryan. So they were okay. They were facing, and this is not Natty Ice. This is 2021 Matt Ryan. So
correct.
Look, they're different guys, but I mean, Hodges and Cam, this is the year that Cam was awful, not with the Patriots, with Carolina. He's facing guys there and he's barely winning. So I just I don't trust Josh Allen in the snow, which it sounds like it's gonna, potentially have some wintry mix. It's gonna be freezing cold there. It's gonna feel like -4, -5 degrees probably by around game time. We could be looking at 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. Nothing is lining up for the Buffalo Bills, who aren't built to play in Buffalo. They're built to beat Kansas City. They're built to beat, these high flying offenses. Cincinnati might be another good one that, they can kind of keep up against. I think this is a really bad matchup for Buffalo. And it's not because the Patriots are playing so well, because I've heard that Mac Jones, and this is not an excuse, but I've heard that Mac Jones is truly banged up. And if maybe he was another Patriots former quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, excuse me, maybe he wouldn't be playing, because Jimmy may have had a similar injury to what Mac has currently. And so, again, I don't want to give the guy excuses. He's been a great quarterback this year for a rookie. I think people got way too crazy on the Patriots hype train when they won 7 in a row. Take a look at the quarterbacks and the teams they played against. They're a solid team. They have a rookie quarterback. No rookie quarterback has won in the playoffs since 2012. I just think this is a perfect example of a team that is, has the coach advantage and has the weather advantage and are built to kind of play in the situation. I like the under quite a bit, and I've taken some Patriots 4.5 already, and I may end up adding more.
I just think anything over 3.5, you have to automatically take the Patriots here, right? If we're saying all these things, that this is going to be another low scoring game, this is going to be another game where it's going to be freezing, and what are they going to do? Like, I don't want anything 4 and above. I'm all over the Patriots. So I'm surprised that it's still sitting at this number. And then you look at what the Bills have done at home. They had the biggest cupcake schedule in the league at home this season. Look at the teams that they played at home. They played the Steelers, the Washington football team, the Texans, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Patriots in that game, and then the Panthers, Falcons, Jets. Who have they beaten at home? That is such a cupcake schedule that they have this season. Now, obviously, the Patriots are in that mix there, but that's the game that they lost too. And that's exactly the type of game we're going to see in this one here too as well. So, at this number right now at 4, like, absolutely on the Patriots. If this starts to come down, which I don't think it really is going to, but Dan, what did you think about Julian teasing this game twice? So you get the Patriots at the 10 and then you get the under at 50. I know you're not that sounds like a non-Dan bet, but I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
So now I just want to jump on your point there. Not to mention, don't forget the Steelers, who are the only other playoff team they played at home. They blew like a 14-point lead at half. Right. They lost that game. Yeah. So it was week 1. It was a long time ago. But yeah, look. So I'm not a tease the total guy, and it's really just kind of this. If you tease a spread, there's always going to be more value in a tease and a spread, simply because you can always gain points back in a spread. You can never gain points back in a total. So. Right. But I will say, if there's ever a time for me to tease a total, which again, I almost never do, like, this is really, really tempting. I don't think I'd take the Patriots with the 10.5. I'd probably look at Kansas City maybe at 6.5. I'm avoiding the Tampa Bay tease altogether, because the whole world feels like they're going to be on that tease, and I can't wait till they win by like 1 or 2 points and everyone just gets annihilated there. But I'm looking for something else. How about this? I'm scared of the same game tease. I'm scared of it. I do not have the cojones that Steve does or Julian does. Like, I don't have those. I don't have that, guys.
Well, I'm almost, so I don't think I've teased it. I said I haven't done a same game tease this season. I think the reason is I don't think I've teased a total this season, because like you, I rarely tease a total. Yeah. But if I am, I almost prefer to make it a same game tease so that I'm somewhat correlating it rather than tease the total and go to whatever, Kansas City, Tampa, whoever, just so that I know I'm getting, like, because if the Patriots keep this to 10 or less, I'm very, very confident that the total score is going to be 50 or less. So I guess a little correlation to get some value out of it is where my head is at. All right. I have takes on the Saturday games. I have a take when we get to the Monday game. I'm extremely takeless on the 3-game Sunday slate. But let's start with the 1:00 game. We just alluded to it. The obvious, quote unquote, teaser leg on the board is to get Tampa down below the field goal, get through all the key numbers. hosting Philly, but I'm hearing we're going to get a little maybe rain and wind in Tampa potentially for this one. So the more you can limit the pass, I would say the more it takes away an edge from the Bucks. 8.5, 46.5, nothing for me there. We have a guest on that will tell you to never, ever make a parlay. But Tampa is my favorite money line parlay piece of the weekend. Like we said, maybe that teaser doesn't get there and they win by 1 or 2 and it gets a little gross. I'm very confident that Tampa is going to win this game at home. I don't know what I would put it with yet, so I'm not there, but I might incorporate it into something else I like over the next week, but Tampa is a leg that I'm comfortable putting into a parlay.
Okay. I understand your point. I mean, listen, I'm not.
It's a no take. It's a no take by me. It's saying I'm not touching the spread, and I think that the heavy home favorite is going to win.
Yeah. I mean, look, I understand. I'm not a parlay guy. You guys know that. It's well documented. I hate them. So here's how about this? Maybe go Tampa and something else. I maybe almost do like a 13-point tease. At least you get Tampa like 4 or whatever it is, across the number there. I know you never tease across 0, but 13 points. I don't know what you do in that situation. This game is confusing to me. The total has moved from 47 to 45.5 now. There were definitely some pro players and some sharp money that came in on this yesterday. This number was 47, and the Philly number is kind of the spreads bounce between 9, 9.5, 8.5, wherever you are. I don't think the number is really gonna end up mattering, to be honest with you. I kind of look at this game and say, this reminds me of when Tampa played Taylor Heineke and the football team in the playoffs last year, and no one gave them a chance. And everyone just kind of thought that Tampa would steamroll that team, and they were a much more difficult out than a lot of people remember. That was a tough game for Tampa. I almost feel like that might have been the toughest game in the playoffs for Tampa for whatever reason in my mind. But I just think that Philly is kind of being super underrated. They're playing with house money. Like, they didn't win the division. They didn't back into the playoffs per se, but no one really expected them to be here, especially the way they started the season. And I feel like they're playing some of the best ball that they played in a long time. Miles Sanders is back this week and he's been practicing. So I think that's going to be an additional boost, because I do think that if you want to beat Tampa, later in the season, teams are actually able to run on them a little bit. And so I do think that that's going to be an important way to kind of control the game there. I just look at what Tom Brady has and those weapons, and I don't trust them, guys. Like, here's another insane stat. Since 2003, if I told you what Tom Brady's against the spread record was in the playoffs, 42 games, what would you guys say?
I know it, so I'm going to let Steve guess.
Steve, if you had to guess, what would you be? 42 games.
I'm guessing it's not going to be good. I'm going to be guessing it's close to 500.
It is close to 22-20 against the spread in the playoffs, which is insane because the spread has been dead for so long. But Brady's teams don't cover.
Do you know the outright record in those 42 games?
I don't know the outright. Okay. Do you have it?
We know it's no, but we know it's a lot better than 20.
Right. Yeah, it's significantly better. I don't know the exact record, but it's significantly better. So to me, it's like and I hate playing all dogs and all unders, right? Because it's so cliche first weekend, especially with the way the history's gone. But I feel like if you're going to play something here, you kind of miss the best number on the total. Don't chase it. I'd say maybe Philly. Here's up with this. I don't hate Philly in a tease up to 14.5. And here's why. The past 5 years, 14 has actually been a more key number in where games land than 10 has been by almost a 1.5%. So I think that maybe 14 is the new 10, which kind of sounds crazy, but that's what happens when you have all offense in a league. So maybe I tease, Philly instead of the Tampa side, or maybe go another Julian side and go Philly and Tampa, tease them both. Again, that's not me. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to tease the Tampa.
Putting yourself in a box, in a window.
Yeah, exactly. I'm never going to do that. But I kind of don't hate Philly as a teaser up to 14.5.
I think 8.5 is just too many points, right? Like, if you look at the scores for the Tampa's final, 3 games, Carolina, Jets, Carolina, okay? The final score doesn't tell the story of how that game was. They were struggling against these teams, really poor offenses. These were, obviously the final score of like that first Carolina game, 32-6, was a blowout or whatnot, but like they were struggling against the Jets. They were struggling in the first half of that game against Carolina. That secondary is brutal, absolutely brutal. And I keep saying that like that's going to be the biggest detriment for them in the playoffs. So now you have somebody like Jalen Hurts, who, I'm obviously a big Jalen Hurts guy. Julian knows this. I've been on him all year. But if you tell me that, Jalen Hurts is going to have the opportunity to throw against this team, the Eagles are going to have success. So 8.5 points for me is just too much to back Tampa. Tampa has been a force at home. Like I think they're 7-1 straight up at home, and really good against the spread record too at home. But like, I don't know, man, with how banged up that secondary is, and then you take away half of Brady's weapons, I have no issue with 8.5, but getting up to 14.5 for the Eagles, I love that. I think that's going to end up being my favorite teaser leg this week. I think that's the number.
All right, guys, we'll try and speed it up a little bit through the last few games here. A nice historical matchup. Niners Cowboys on Sunday afternoon in Big D. San Fran getting 3, probably with the juice the way it's heading, looking like it'll be 3.5. Cowboys laying 3 at home, total 50.5. Dallas minus 160, San Fran plus 140 as we record on DK Sportsbook. Fun game. I don't think I'm going to bet this one because I don't know. Like either San Fran is going to do it their way and do it right. And, like Dan will tell you, the spread probably doesn't matter and they probably win, but getting plus 3.5 would be nice. Or the Dallas high-flying offense is going to wake up and San Francisco is not going to be able to keep up and they're going to cruise. I lean slightly to San Francisco and the points. I also think it's just fun to, fade the Cowboys and hope that their lack of playoff success continues. But I don't know. This might be a sit and watch for me, Dan. Probably going to say it's a tough game, but go ahead.
Yeah, look, I know I totally agree. If you ask me the one game that I don't know what to do with in the playoffs this week, this is the game. I agree. The hook is extremely key for me. If you want Dallas, jump now. Go get the 3. Don't wait and see where it goes because it's only going to go up. I would take Dallas with the 3 now if you like that side. If you like the Niners, it appears it's going to be, 3.5 minus 120, minus 115 in the next couple of days. Be patient. And I guess that's the way I would lean. Like the hook would kind of be important to me. So I'd probably go with the hook if I had to. But I got to be honest with you. I think Dallas is probably the right side. Like just looking at the numbers, probably the right side because, again, San Francisco feels like the NFC version of the Bengals right now. They they backed in my opinion. They didn't deserve to win that game. They backed in, which obviously since he didn't do, but everyone's so high on them right now. And, it's been the Deebo Samuel show. And I just know, look, I love Jimmy and I've been a pro Jimmy guy. I was pro Jimmy prior to Mac, but I still say when it comes down to really Jimmy Garoppolo, like I don't really trust him still. I don't trust him in big time spots. And maybe with Belichick that looks different, but I don't trust him. I definitely don't trust Kyle Shanahan in the playoffs. I think we all know that 28-3. Like it's just, I don't trust that team. I really want nothing to do with this game. Like I feel like the total, it's probably going to go over, but like, I honestly don't know where to go in this one. I just don't. Like, this is going to be the game where I say, I'll look and see if there's something second half, but I mean, really, I'm probably not playing anything.
San Fran has lost me more money than any other team in the NFL. That team sucks when I look at it, but Dallas minus 3, that's my play or nothing. That's the only thing I'm taking in this one.
Very quick, very fair. Sunday night game, Pittsburgh at Kansas City. We saw it a couple weeks ago, and the number was everywhere. I think it was 9, and then we had some Kansas City COVID news. It came down as low as 7.5, and then got bet back up once Kansas City was relatively healthy, and Kansas City blew doors. If you want me to tell you what I think is going to happen in this game, I think Kansas City is going to blow doors at home again, but we know that because of where the number was, there's value on Pittsburgh at plus 12.5. Am I comfortable betting Pittsburgh plus 12.5? No, because they're not a good team. So again, much like the Tampa game, I don't have a take. I think that the home team wins, and I'm not willing to lay it with them, and I'm not willing to bet the dog. It's just a Tampa game with a higher point spread to me. The Eagles have a better chance to win than the Steelers in my mind, but neither of them are going to. Dan, can you play anything in this game?
Well, the first matchup of these two teams is very disappointing because I got a nice middle 7-12, and I was like, okay, this is great. And I was like, okay, this has a chance. And then Kansas City, as you said, blue doors, absolutely. Roethlisberger didn't even look like an NFL quarterback that game, and that game was not close. I feel like listen, there's going to be some faves that win here, and I think that Kansas City, it would be the one that I would take on Sunday if I was looking to take a favorite. I think that, despite the way that Pittsburgh has played, and they've definitely played better, and it looks like they might be getting Juju Smith-Schuster back and whatever. Najee Harris got banged up at the end of the game last week against Baltimore. People kind of don't remember that,
we need to remember how bad the Browns and Ravens that they just recently beat to get in are, because they're not good.
Yep. Yeah, they're not good. They're divisional games, so I do want to give them some credit for that, but they're not great. And I think, look, again, I think this is another spot where I'd probably go to the tees. It opened 13.5. Now it's down to 12.5. I might feel comfortable taking Kansas City at 6.5 on the tees and doing maybe 6.5 with, Philly, Kansas City type thing. I got to be honest, I don't know. I don't really know where to stand on the total. It feels low to me, which also would kind of signify that either A, Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce are probably not as healthy as we would hope they'd, hope them for them to be, because Kelce got banged up at the end of last game and Hill had the heel thing. Or it says that, Pittsburgh ain't going to score much. And
right.
Again, another game that I don't really truly love. I'm going to go Kansas City tees here if I'm going to play something down to 6.5.
I think that's that's the only route I would take too. Don't forget, Kansas City started 2-7 against the spread, and then ended up 8-9. They were a much better cover team in the second half of the season, but this is a really big spread to cover even against a bad team. I'd much rather take them 6.5 and do it with the Eagles.
There you go. All right, Monday night, I do have a take. Cardinals, Rams, another division matchup, another night game, another third time around this year. Road team won both of the regular season matchups. I'm laying the 3.5 with the Rams at home. I have no issue with that. I think that they are the better team, and I think they will show it in this game. I pray that Stafford just doesn't make the dumb mistakes that he's been making in some of these games lately. Because they don't need that. If they just play a little smarter, talent-wise, they should get through these games. But you got Cooper Kupp. Odell Beckham Jr. is actually making a difference as the wide receiver too. They're running the ball pretty well, and they have the difference makers on defense with Donald up front and Ramsey in the secondary as playmakers. The Rams outside of Stafford really have been there. They've made their runs, and Stafford should be veteran enough to stand in there and help them. This is the learning experience for the Cardinals of getting there and being there. I don't want anything to do with Cliff Kingsbury in a playoff game. He's awful. Simple as that. Give me the Rams with the 3.5, laying the 3.5 on Monday night, Dan.
Yeah, we're in full agreement here again. This is my favorite play of the weekend, and I know it goes directly against the divisional stat that I just gave out.
Yep.
However, and this is the however, okay? However, one, Bill Belichick is not Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury has been, maybe outside of Brandon Staley, if you take a look at just in terms of coaching rankings and obviously, Joe Judge, et cetera, I would have Cliff Kingsbury and Brandon Staley as the number 3 and 4 worst coaches in the second half of the season. And I know people think that that's astonishing or some really super hot take. I think Staley took his team out of the playoffs, and I think Kingsbury did his damnedest to try and get his team out of the playoffs. Like down the stretch, this team started 7-0. Like people forget that they backed into the playoffs. they lost to Seattle the final week. This team sucks right now. And no DeAndre Hopkins, which has been such a major turning point for this Cardinals team. No Hopkins has been an issue for Kyler Murray. It feels like there's just no organization here. It feels like everyone's going to love the Cardinals as a public dog. Ooh, I'm getting 3.5. Like, ooh, I'll take the dog on Monday night, divisional. And again, the stat says take Arizona, but the Rams, and by the way, I think Stafford is banged up, which I think is partially part of the problem right now. I think he's playing through something, but they're too talented. They have been playing such good football. I know they lost, they blew that lead last week, but that was Deebo Samuel being Deebo Samuel and doing Deebo Samuel things. I just don't think that the Cardinals are going to be able to, replicate what the Niners did. I think that the Rams are playing better football, and I just don't see how the Cardinals cover Cooper Kupp. I don't see it. And Cam Akers shockingly might play a decent sized role in this game. Crazy compared, because he tore his Achilles and, before the preseason, absolutely insane. But I think if they can run the ball and hold it, I think they win by a touchdown. I love the Rams, love them. And I think that I would probably be looking at some alt spreads here too, for potential payouts.
Anything up to like 6.5, you think, on alternate?
Yeah, I might even be willing to, dabble on the 7.5. Yeah.
All right. Quick question before you go, Steve. What level of confidence did you guys have in Hopkins playing in this game? Because maybe I'm just an idiot, but my understanding was they were working hard to get him back. It would be like, hey, you'll be back sometime in the playoffs. No.
Yeah, I think the idea was if he was going to come back, it wouldn't be until the championship if they made it that far.
Oh,
yeah, no shot at the
maybe I'm thinking of somebody else and I just wasn't paying attention. But
just real quick, because I know Dan's got to get out of here. Though that stat about Kingsbury for the first games 1 through 7, even back to Texas Tech, 42, 20, and 1, and then the rest of the year he's gone 16 and 43 in his career as head coach. Absolutely atrocious. And then all the points that Dan made, they can't stop this Rams offense. They can't stop this Rams team. You get Beckham in there, you got Kupp, and then without Hopkins, it's been such a big difference. Like the number one receiver for the Cardinals since Hopkins has been out is Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz doesn't do anything after he catches the ball. No yards after the catch ever. He catches the ball and falls down. That's all he does, right? You're not going to beat the Rams with somebody like Zach Ertz or anything like that. James Conner been banged up too as well. That was a big force in the game when they played him the first time. Now James Conner's banged up. You got to rely upon Chase Edmonds. That ain't happening. Come on. I love the Rams minus 3.5. I think that is 100% the play in this game.
All right, there we go. It sounds like the Rams are the best bet from the podcast in unison here. So there we go. You gotta wait till Monday night. Save the best for last. All right, that is a podcast. Thank you to Dan Lifshatz from 98.5 Sports Hub for coming on the Unreasonable Odds podcast and joining us this week. Enjoy Wildcard Weekend, guys. For Julian Edlow, for Steve Buchanan, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at Unreasonable Odd. Hopefully go in and get those promos that we discussed off the top of the show, and we will talk to you guys next week.